They're the ones that are dealing with the clients, okay, with the customers, with the vendors. And they may say to you, yes, in theory, this will work really well, but in reality, this is not how the process works. Okay. So as high achievers, we really need to understand that getting the job done. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Female Empowered. I am your host. I'm Krista Gurka. And if you're watching me over on YouTube, I'm actually recording this at night, on a Friday night. I'm drinking a little vino. I got my pup Duncan lying on the floor next to me, and I'm going to record a few podcast episodes today. Why? Because I had a really busy week, and now I feel like talking. I'm actually enjoying some time home alone on a Friday evening, and I'm gonna record some podcasts and chat with you. I'm gonna imagine like I'm inviting, a couple hundred of my favorite friends into my little office, and we're gonna talk some things business. So what we're actually going to talk about today is a topic that I do think is very important, but I also think it might ruffle a few feathers or make some people out there feel a little bit uncomfortable. I probably, if I had heard this episode about 4 or 5 years ago, it probably would have made me very uncomfortable. So today, what we're going to be talking about are the reasons most entrepreneurs have trouble managing their teams and what it really could be costing them. So most of the episodes I do here on Female Empowered are from personal experience, things that I have learned to level up. And they're also things that I have to constantly remind myself about. And so I like to share them with you because I kind of feel that there's probably a lot of other people out there that are feeling the same thing. And so it's one of the things that really helped me transform my business, helped me transform and level up into the CEO of the company, and help me also get to the point that I am at today in my business, where I run a 7-figure business and go into the studios, I don't know, 1 day a week if I want to. And that's really because I still really enjoy treating patients and seeing clients and teaching a class from time to time. So we are going to get down and dirty today and talk about the reasons most entrepreneurs have trouble managing their teams and really what it could be costing them. Okay. Now, number one, I'm going to say that most entrepreneurs, most of us, and I'm including myself in this, so I will include myself in this. Most of us are high achievers, all right? Female entrepreneurs tend to be high achievers, right? Throughout their life. They were, we did well in school. We were probably perfectionists. We probably still are perfectionists or recovering perfectionists, but we have always been high achievers. And being a high achiever comes with certain strengths. And while I don't like to call them weaknesses, I like to say that sometimes those things that make us strong and our strength as a high achiever can also be our kryptonite at some times, and kind of put us in a place, especially in the workplace, where a lot of people, we may get the labels of being aggressive or bitchy or whatever the case may have, or whatever have you. I don't even know. That's not even English. You know the saying I'm trying to come up with. But if it were men, I don't know. I'm just speculating. I don't know that they would get the same kind of labels, but as women, we generally do. And so some of the reasons that entrepreneurs usually do not make the best managers is because we are all high achievers. And here are some of the traits that come with being a high achiever. High achievers and entrepreneurs tend to be future paced. What does that mean? We are always thinking 5 steps ahead. We are thinking in the future, not necessarily what's going to happen tomorrow, but what's going to happen 3 months from now, 3 years from now. All right. So we are always in the future. We're always looking to see what's the next big leap. Where is the next big kind of opportunity in the market, which oftentimes makes it very difficult to lead here and now in the present. Okay. It also may make it very difficult to express our ideas because we are thinking of what our ideas will kind of eventually migrate into 3, 6, 9 months in the future. Okay. The other thing that's generally true about entrepreneurs is that most of us are visionaries. Okay. If you read the book Traction, I talk about Traction a lot. It's the business model that we operate our business, my business Pilates in the Grove off of. And they have basically they talk about 2 different types of entrepreneurs, visionaries and integrators. And I used to think that I was an integrator because I was very much like down and dirty and I just did what was needed of me. But as soon as I stepped into the role of running a business, I realized I'm really kind of a visionary. And I've recently taken the Sacred Money Archetype quiz and found that I am also a ruler, which means that rulers kind of are these people that feel like they can monetize anything. So I look at an opportunity and I think, how can we turn that into a business? So visionaries have lots and lots of ideas. Sometimes it's shiny object syndrome. Sometimes they're ideas that will be the next big thing to skyrocket your business to high 6 figures, 7 figures, or change the trajectory of your role in the business. And oftentimes when we have too many ideas, we can't focus on any one thing, which again makes it hard to lead teams because we're kind of all over the place. And it can be difficult at times to articulate why we're doing what we're doing and which direction we are going into and why we are going in that direction. It comes with, moving a mile a minute, having a hard time slowing down. And a lot of times teams can't keep up with us, right? As visionaries, we hate, at least I do, I hate getting stuck in the weeds. I hate getting stuck in the weeds. If you don't know what the weeds terminology is, if you ever worked in a restaurant, I worked in a restaurant to put myself through school, being in the weeds means like you're behind, you're overstressed, if you're waiting tables or something, like you're like, I'm in the weeds. And so that means you're just really busy and you're behind. So we don't like to get stuck in the weeds. We don't like to get stuck in the nitty gritty. We like to have these ideas and then move forward with the ideas. And sometimes we leave our team lagging when we're like, oh, we want this done tomorrow. And they're like, well, how are we going to do that? How are we going to manage that? How are we going to relay that idea or initiative to the clients tomorrow? We have to prepare. Okay. Not everyone on your team. And I would venture to say that most often there's not visionaries on your team, because if there were, they'd be out running their own businesses. And so that can make us seem very kind of discombobulated to our team and having no real focus. And without focus, people get lost and disengaged. Okay. So these are some of the things that as high achievers and entrepreneurs make it difficult for us to be solid leaders to the people that report to us. Okay. Now you could say, well, what does that really matter? I mean, I'm still doing it for the betterment of the company, right? But what could it be actually costing you in your business? There is always a cost. There's always a cost. Okay. So what could this mindset and this go, 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 never take your foot off the gas pedal attitude and culture in your business, what could it actually be costing you? And one of the things that it usually costs business owners is loyal team members, right? And if you don't have loyal team members, it's really hard to grow because it's hard to retain staff. And if you're always having turnover and you're always having to train and onboard new people and get people to buy into your mission, vision, and values, it stifles growth. Okay, because your team feels insane. Like it makes sense in your head. And I know this from personal experience because I have all these ideas flowing around in my head. And sometimes I realize, did I even say that out loud? And I recognize as I was growing my company, Pilates in the Grove, one of the things that was a huge mistake and was a huge kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess defect or hole in my leadership was everything was in my head. And I just imagined that everyone understood what was in there, and nobody did, or not a lot of people did. Okay. So it's really important that your team not only buys into your mission, vision, and values, but understands where you're going. Okay. So high achievers also struggle with quenching our insatiable need for accomplishment. I'll say that again. Our insatiable need for accomplishment, which usually kind of feeds our need for external validation. And so what happens is we see these goals, and the goal is to crush the goal. So we put these blinders on to achieve everything that we set out to do. And sometimes what happens is, in the pursuit of those achievements, we can, they can come at a detriment of our relationships, of our free time, of our time with our friends, with our family, fulfillment and other physical, emotional needs, self-care, because we're just like, the goal is to make this shit happen, and I'm going to do that at all costs. Now, the reason behind that oftentimes is because many high achievers like myself, we feed off of external validation. And so when we feel we need to accomplish something to get that external validation. So that's why we're always go, go, go. We need to do better. We're perfectionists, et cetera, et cetera. All right. We have laser focus when we're focused in on something, but then we really get distracted oftentimes, because we're like, oh, the next big idea comes into our head, and then we never really fulfill and finalize that one goal, which is why I really, really think it's so important for visionaries and CEOs of a company to have a solid team around them. It doesn't have to be a team of like 5 people. It could be one person on your team that doesn't have that visionary insight, that can kind of reel you in, rein you in, and say, okay, what are we focusing on now? And keep you focused, and kind of be the liaison between your amazing ideas that are going to grow this company and how it's going to happen in real life, and how everyone that actually has to fulfill on that vision are going to be able to accomplish their goals. Okay. So most high achievers, and let me know if this resonates with you, like, we're more motivated by the possibility of success really than by the fear of failure. I am much more, motivated by like, oh, this could succeed, than, oh, what if it fails? No, I'm like, no, this could succeed. So we're going to go all in on it. Right. We often sprint to the finish line, which again, sometimes is our kryptonite, because we haven't thought things out well enough, and we haven't created these contingency plans that are going to save us from failure. Okay. Now, the difference oftentimes between high achievers is that they want to cross the finish line, versus leaders want to bring people across the finish line with them. All right. I'll say that again. Achievers are looking to sprint to the finish line, whereas good leaders are looking to bring other people across the finish line with them. Now, that doesn't mean that leaders aren't high achievers. It just means that they've learned to kind of dial down that high achieving personality traits, okay, and dial up their leadership traits, so they can also make other people high achievers at the same realm. Okay. Leaders feel better. Good leaders feel better when they cross the finish line with other people. Sometimes high achievers or these visionaries, they don't care if other people come with them. They just want to be one of the people that cross the finish line. Okay. So what happens sometimes is we become so goal oriented, so action driven, so accomplishment driven, that we don't make people a priority. right? We don't listen to what other people are saying are the problems. We will say, well, just fix it. This is what I want done. Make it happen. And sometimes it's important to listen to our peers, listen to the people at the front desk, because they're the ones that are dealing with the clients, okay, with the customers, with the vendors. And they may say to you, yes, in theory, this will work really well, but in reality, this is not how the process works. Okay. So as high achievers, we really need to understand that getting the job done, no matter what, it might not always be the best course of action for the people in your business. Okay. So again, I'm just going to say a lot of times as high achievers, as the entrepreneurs, we have this founder's mentality. We have this like wartime CEO mentality of like, get it done by any means necessary. Okay. We don't necessarily see ourselves as wanting to change the world. We just want this initiative to become a success. All right. And good leaders see that it will be a success when everybody buys in. So it's really important to, if you don't have somebody else on your team that can step in to be a good leader, okay, that you learn how to dial down those high achieving tendencies when you may risk your team, your culture, and team loyalty in that process. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of run through with you a few mindsets, a few things that I see sometimes entrepreneurs think to themselves or embody, or mindsets that they have. All right. And these are things that I've said to myself many a time. Okay, so let's run down some of these. So number one, I'm not harder on anyone else than I am on myself. How many of you have said that? Well, I'm not harder on anyone else than I am on myself. Okay, that's great. But you can handle that, or maybe you can't. Who knows what's going on behind like the veil of your personality? You may be struggling with anxiety, depression, all sorts of burnout, overwhelm, stress, ulcers, et cetera, et cetera. So being hard on yourself isn't necessarily a badge of honor. All right. And not everyone can handle that same, it comes at a cost. It comes at a cost. So here's another one. This job is not rocket science. Why is it so difficult for people to understand and do their job? This is a big one. It's a big one. And I know a lot of you have said that, or at least thought it if you haven't said it. I know I have. Okay. The reason is because you know how to do these things. They're in your head. Maybe the person that's supposed to do it hasn't been trained on what to do yet. Maybe they don't understand what done looks like for you. Maybe you have a difficult time articulating what it is that you actually want done. Okay, a good leader clearly explains the expectations and role responsibilities to the people that are reporting to them. Okay, so you saying why can't people do their job? Now it's one of two things. Either you've allowed the disengagement and complacency, or you haven't set them up for success by properly training them and then holding them accountable for their actions. All right, here's another one. Well, you say perfectionism like it's a bad thing. I have come to realize that perfectionism is just body armor covering up for a lot of insecurities. A lot of insecurities that maybe we as high achievers were put up with, especially if you're a high achiever that was brought up in the 80s, late 70s, 80s, okay? Where it was always do good, be better, do this, be straight A's, be top of the class, perfect attendance, things like that. That's where perfectionist comes from. Okay. Now, the other thing you can say, well, I only want the best for everyone. And you may want, but do you really know what the best for everyone is? Or are you just projecting what you feel is the best for everyone? Okay. Because if there's anything that I've learned by trying to incentivize people with financial rewards, because it's usually what a lot of people ask for in their performance reviews, I want more money. But the truth is not everyone is incentivized by money. Some people might be incentivized by more freedom, by more autonomy, by more agency, by more time off, flexibility in their schedule. Okay, here's another one. Well, here's two more. And I laugh because people say this to me all the time. You know, I'm not angry. And so usually where that comes from is they're saying to me, why are you so angry? I'm not angry. Okay, but if other people are sensing your anger, there's some, you know, energetic displacement here that's kind of showing anger. The other one that I love is like, why don't you smile more? And I was like, stop telling me to smile. Okay, I've frequently been told that I have RBF, which is, I guess, I learned this only a couple of years ago, which was resting bitch face. But the truth is, you know, sometimes there's time for smiling and sometimes there's not. But if you as an entrepreneur do not feel that these are strong suits for you, then what you should do is put someone in the place to be the leader and manager. Okay, and it is really difficult to lead if more than 4 or 5 at the most people directly report to you. So if you were running a studio or a physical therapy practice or a wellness practice and you have 15 people reporting to you, you're setting yourself up for failure. Okay, I recommend having no more than 4 to 5 people directly report to you. And in my company, only 2 people directly report to me. And actually, really, it's only 1. Okay, so when I started creating this kind of buffer between all 18, 19 employees and myself, it drastically changed my abilities to lead, which I'm still working on daily. Okay, and my abilities to be there for my staff and my team. And it allows them to work in their zone of genius and work more comfortable because I wasn't a raving lunatic yelling things at people all the time. Okay, here's the other thing, and I you know, I really would be curious what you guys think, and you can DM me over on Instagram at Krista Gurka. But these are a lot of traits that I think I was actually, whether it's that I was brought up in the 80s or it was a lot of this kind of, you know, Jack Welch mentality of like, this is how you are to be a good leader. And some people really still do believe that a leader's job is to like whip you, and I'm doing whip in air quotes, whip you into shape, you know, because those were like the old school kind of traits of a leader. They thought that it was like, we need to make it harder for you. Okay, we need to really kind of literally like whip you into shape. They led by dictatorship. Okay, this was at times like during the assembly lines. And again, when you just really needed people to follow the rules. All right. And so they think, sometimes leaders think that by being hard on people, you see this in coaching all the time too, where you have like dads that have no business coaching, or even moms for that matter, and they're just making kids run suicides and stuff like that. That doesn't make good athletes. Okay, yelling at your team does not make good employees, does not teach anyone anything. If we've learned anything in parenting, yelling at our children does not make them better children, just makes them tune us out. All right, the other bullshit mindset that I call BS on is perfectionism is a noble endeavor. All right, this is, again, you say perfectionism like it's a bad thing. Well, I can tell you that perfectionism really robs you of the joy of accomplishment sometimes, because we always nitpick, oh, we could have done that better. And I've learned a lot of times nobody is looking so closely at our stuff, our social media, our graphics, our website as we are. Okay, working 60 to 80 hours a week is going to take its toll on your health, on your wealth, on your relationships, on your happiness, on the joy, and maybe even on your life. Okay, for perfectionists, it's never enough. And I've learned, I call myself a recovering perfectionist because it still kind of rears its ugly head, but I've learned to say that done is better than perfect. Done is better than perfect, okay? 80% is good enough. 80% done is good enough. We do not need to hit 100% all the time. Okay, and then number 3 is like, I need to have smarter people to execute this. I don't have time for this touchy-feely stuff. And I will say that this used to be something really hard for me, and it still is challenging for me. I used to say that I'd rather stab myself in the fork with an eye, in the eye with a fork, than talk about feelings. And I really, really used to have a hard time when people would cry in my office. But now I've gotten better with emotion. I think because I have become more emotionally regulated. My nervous system is much more regulated. I'm not living in this fight, flight, freeze, or flee kind of system anymore. And a lot of that has come from my own personal development, going through therapy, reading, doing a lot of stuff to, dysregulate, to regulate my nervous system and my emotional maturity. Okay. And so now when I see people getting upset, I can hold space for them and say, what's coming up for you right now? I see that you're emotional about this. What's coming up? Okay. The other thing is that I am not responsible for somebody else's emotional maturity or regulation. I can hold space for them to be in that emotion the same way I'm trying to learn to do with my children. When I see them upset or when I see them sad, instead of saying like, oh, I'll give you something to cry about, which is something I heard very, very often when I was little, I can say, I can see you're really upset by that. Is there anything I can do to help you right now? Or, I would really be upset if that happened to me at school too. As an owner, as a leader, what I can try to do is say, I see that this is really upsetting for you. What's coming up for you? And then I can just, instead of, I'll let them give what they're feeling, and then we can have a discussion about it if they're able to talk, so that we can have a normal, adult, emotionally mature conversation without anybody becoming defensive. And if someone's not ready at that time, myself included, to have an emotionally mature conversation, we can opt to hold off for another time. All right. So this has been something, becoming a good, especially right now with the way that hiring and retaining people is very, very difficult for companies. We want to do everything in our power to be the type of leaders that our company deserves. That's why I really started to level up my leadership, because I felt that my team, I know they deserve it. My company deserved it. My clients deserved it. My family deserved it. And most of all, I deserved it. I deserved not to feel so overwhelmed and burnt out and exhausted all the time. And if you want to live in this visionary role of just growth and moving forward and having your foot on the gas pedal all the time, because even in my own mastermind today, we talked about there's certain entrepreneurs that are more executors and strategic, and other entrepreneurs that are growth entrepreneurs, and they're not really excited about sitting in the day-to-day operation. So if our businesses aren't growing, it's not really fun for us anymore. So if you're one of these growth entrepreneurs and you're just always looking for the next big opportunity, maybe put someone in the role that is going to be a better leader and manager than you are. In our company, I've hired people to sit in those direct team building, team relationship roles. Now, that doesn't mean my team doesn't come to me. I see them all the time. I have a small company, but I have other people handling the day-to-day, because I am always thinking about three things. And oftentimes I realize that people thought I wasn't engaged or wasn't listening to them because I was thinking about 17 emails or the meetings I have to prepare for. All right. Another thing that helps with this is to set boundaries around your time. So if rather than someone coming in the door and saying, like, I don't really believe in that open door policy, in that they can knock on your door at any time. I do believe that people should be able to come to you whenever they want, but not necessarily whenever they want. We can say, I take office hours on, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 12 to 1. So if you need to meet or chat with me about something, get on my schedule. Okay. So these are some of the things, some of the reasons that if you are a high achiever, that maybe you're like, I don't know, why is this leading thing so hard for me? But if any of those things resonated with you, like, why don't people just do their job? you have to start to look at things from another lens. Okay, you have to flip the coin and look at it from someone else. Not everyone is a visionary like you, and not everyone should be, because again, those people would go leave and start their own companies. Okay, so I'd love to hear what you thought about this episode. Did this resonate with you as far as, do you see yourself as a high achiever, and maybe why some of these skill sets that you have make it difficult or challenging for you to be a good leader, a successful leader? Is there anything else that you would have added to this podcast, this episode, this conversation? If you have a team or are interested in growing a team, these are some of the things that we talk about and we work through in my Beyond the Movement Inner Circle mentorship programs. Okay. I believe at the time of this recording, enrollment is now closed, because we close off enrollment in November, December, and January. However, we will be reopening enrollment, I believe, in January. And I think at the time, I'm not sure right now, but I think we may have 2 or 3 spots opening. But you can get on the wait list, because access goes out to the wait list first. So if the 3 spots get filled from people that are on the wait list, then we don't actually even open it for enrollment. So if you're interested and you think you're going to grow a team and you want to learn how to nip some of these things in the bud earlier, or you think you need to put someone on your team that can help you in these roles, I invite you to apply to be part of our mentorship. And you can do so by visiting www.kristagurka.com/mentorship. And you can go ahead and get on the wait list there, so you get first dibs on when we're ready to open enrollment for applications. Okay. That's all I got for you for now, ladies and gents, if you're listening to this. And until next time, my friends, bye for now.